what happened to Danger Force. Welcome guys to another vid, and yeah, in this video we're going to be knowing what happened to Danger Force. I'm a big fan of Henry Danger, and I need to know the fuck what happened to Danger Force. So yeah.
Nickelodeon has had a lot of iconic shows over the years, but every once in a while, a series comes along that feels like it could be the start of a whole universe. For a while, that was exactly what Henry Danger represented.
Henry Danger is the GOAT Nickelodeon show.
It wasn't just popular, it was everywhere. The show followed Henry Hart, a kid who becomes the sidekick to a superhero named Captain Man. That mix of comedy, action, and weird superhero logic made it stand out from a typical Nickelodeon sitcom. What really made it work was the chemistry between Henry and Captain Man. It felt chaotic, funny, and surprisingly consistent for a kid's show. That dynamic became the backbone of the entire series, and over time, Henry Danger grew into
This is about Danger Force, right?
one of Nickelodeon's biggest modern hits. It got multiple seasons, constant reruns, and a strong fanbase that stuck around even outside of the show's original airings. So naturally, Nickelodeon did what
Charlotte Ash Heritage should have had a season six. Heritage should have season six. Heritage should have had a season six.
networks always do when something works. They tried to expand it. That's where Danger Force comes in. And Danger Force wasn't just a spin-off. It was meant to continue the world of Captain Man while introducing a new
Can never be like the OG. Like this is one thing people don't understand. Something has ended. It has ended forever, bro. You can never be. You can never recreate something. You know what's going on is gone.
team of young superheroes who would carry the franchise forward. The idea made a lot of sense on paper. Keep Captain Man, keep Schwoz, and build a new generation of heroes around them. It was supposed to feel like a fresh start while still staying connected to Henry Danger. The new team included characters like Choppa, Bose, Mika, and Miles, each with their own powers and personalities. On paper, it looked like Nickelodeon was setting up for its next long-running hit. But from the beginning, something felt different. Even though the setting was familiar, the energy wasn't quite the same as Henry Danger. Part of that came from the absence of Henry Hart himself as the central character. While the original
I don't think we could kind of hop that. I'm just saying.
show had a strong duo at its core, Danger Force had to rebuild that chemistry from scratch. Captain Man and Schwoz were still there, which helped connect it to its original series, but the emotional anchor fans had grown attached to was no longer the focus. At first, fans were excited. A spin-off of a show like Henry Danger should have been a huge event, but that initial hype didn't last as long as Nickelodeon probably hoped. Instead of becoming the next big cultural moment, Danger Force settled into something quieter. It still had viewers, but it wasn't dominating conversations the way its predecessor did. Part of this shift wasn't even about the show itself, it was also about the time it came out. Television habits were already changing fast, especially for kids and teens. Streaming platforms and short-form content started pulling away from traditional cable shows, and Nickelodeon shows began competing with an entirely different kind of entertainment. Even strong shows started feeling less event-like and more like background content people watched casually rather than something they waited for weekly. And as Danger Force continued, it slowly became clear that it wasn't reaching the same cultural peak as Henry Danger. The episodes were still comedic and action focused, but the online buzz around them was noticeably smaller. Fewer clips went viral, fewer moments were discussed, and fewer people talked about it outside of the fan base. This created a strange situation where the show wasn't failing in a traditional sense, but it also wasn't growing into something bigger. It existed in this middle ground, not unpopular, but not really dominating either. Over time, that quiet middle ground is often
So the reason Danger Force isn't performing is because teens and kids migrated from cable shows to online shows. Alright.
what determines a show's fate. If a series doesn't expand its audience, it eventually reaches a natural stopping point. And as seasons went on, the structure of Danger Force stayed consistent. New missions, new villains, and new comedic situations kept the formula going. But consistency alone doesn't always guarantee long term attention, especially in a landscape where viewers are constantly moving to new content. Behind the scenes, Nickelodeon itself was also shifting priorities. The network started investing less heavily in long running live action
Yeah,
sitcoms than it had in
animation.
previous years. That meant fewer pushes, fewer major promotions, and less emphasis on building a connected franchise like earlier Nickelodeon eras. For fans, that translated into something subtle but noticeable. The show didn't feel as central to the network's identity as Henry Danger once did, and eventually Danger Force reached its final season, wrapping up without a huge promotional send-off or major cultural moment around its ending. There wasn't a dramatic cancellation announcement or controversy. Instead, it just quietly came to a conclusion after its run.
Yada 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 yada. Hi.
It's interesting how quickly a once dominant Nickelodeon universe moved from peak popularity to quiet conclusion. It shows how fast television changes, especially in a world where attention moves faster than ever before.
Yada yada yada. In a nutshell, your show is ass. I'm sorry. In a nutshell, we're not dinosaurs anymore.